Good morning and welcome to Tanya and You Chapter 15. Beautiful day today. It's a also as we get ready for Purim, it's a special day today. Today is the fast of Esther, Tanis Esther, which is this year a few days before Purim. But it's a great day to study Tanya. We don't have we don't have l'chaim on our coffee this morning, but we have the wealth, the richness of the Tanya itself to get us going here in the morning. So, chapter 15, perhaps one of my favorite chapters of the Tanya. It's favorite because it's so relevant. And the Tanya talks about what it means to grow as a human being, talks to human psychology, to to how to live life, just how to live life. Very down to earth, very practical, and very relatable. The Tanya is in the middle of developing this idea of what a Beinoni is, and more importantly, how do we become a Beinoni? We spoke about the difference between a Beinoni and a Tzaddik. A Tzaddik is someone who has transformed their emotions, their self, they have no inner struggle, right? It all comes easy, simple, and they always do what's right. They have a strong, intense love to God, and this hatred, this disgust to anything which is opposite of godly and divine, not part of their mission. But that's the tzaddik. That's not the norm. But the average person has the inner struggle, and the question is, do we give in? If we give in, even once in a while, we are in the category of a Russia. And the Beinoni is what the Tanya says, we are able to become a Beinoni. Every moment, we should look at a standalone, an independent moment and say, can I be a Beinoni? Can I overcome this inner struggle? Even though our emotional state is not necessarily aligned to the way we act, but as long as we are able to control ourselves in thought, speech, and action, we are a Beinoni. And last week in chapter 14, the Tanya argued that everyone is able to become a Beinoni. We have certain skills and certain tools that we need, but it's attainable. It's possible. And in today's chapter, chapter 15, we talk about what does it mean to serve God, right? We hear this word a lot. Is it possible to be a Beinoni but not be serving God? Is it possible to be religious without having a relationship with God? That's this chapter. But before we get into the chapter itself, we'll start with two stories. I think the stories kind of bring out the idea of the chapter. Both of these stories happen with the third Chabad Rebbe, who was known as Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Schneerson of Chabad, which is the same name as our Rebbe, but he is a grandfather. The third Rebbe, he is actually a grandchild of the author of the Tanya of the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneer Zalman. He had a very interesting upbringing. His mother passed away when he was a young child, 3 years old, and he was raised by his grandparents, by the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, was actually who raised the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandson. And interestingly, he's known not so much for his actual name, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, but he's known for his writings, for the book that he published on Jewish law, known as the Tzemach Tzedek. That was the name of the book, and that's how he's known as the Tzemach Tzedek. So he was the leader of Chabad about 200 years ago. And two stories about him. Story number one is a chassid came to him once and asked him for a blessing and said, I want a blessing for myself or for my children, that they should have an easy time serving God. It should come naturally to them, effortless. They should wake up in the morning and they should be excited. Let's go say our morning prayers. Let's, you know, do what's right. Never have that inner struggle. It should come easy. Just making all these decisions in life should come natural to them. That was the blessing that he was looking for. And the Tzemach Tzedek answered as follows. Said that my father, my father-in-law, my grandfather, they've been working for many, many years that our service to God, I'm paraphrasing, our service to God should not be natural. We should not be born into it. It should come with toil. It shouldn't come easy. That's story number one. What does that mean exactly? What's wrong if it comes? Why do we have to suffer? Why is it so difficult? Right? Why can't we have it easy? Story number two. Story number two is someone had a difficulty with studying Torah. It didn't come easy. So he asked a blessing from the Tzemach Tzedek, from the same Rebbe. The blessing was, please give me a blessing that I should have it easy to study Torah. And he was complaining, it's so hard for me to study Torah. And the Tzemach Tzedek responded and said, what should I do that it is so easy for me to study Torah? I'm missing out. I'm missing out in toiling in Torah because it comes easy to me. And the theme of these two stories is that for some reason, the Tzemach Tzedek was saying there's something special when it doesn't come easy, when you have to work hard. And that's really the theme that this chapter develops, this chapter of Tanya develops, the idea of what it means to serve God. Sometimes it doesn't come easy. So let's get into the chapter. Let's get into the chapter. It's not a long chapter. Like I always say, I recommend that you read it inside to get all the nuances. But the chapter is based on a verse from Malachi, from our prophets. And the verse reads as follows. The verse reads, Vishavtem uriisem, and you will again see the difference, the distinction bein tzaddik la rasha, between a tzaddik and a rasha. But then the verse adds, bein oived elikim la asher loy avoda. You'll see the difference, the distinctions between the one who serves God and the one who does not serve God. Okay, so he develops, he breaks down, he dissects this verse. And he says, first of all, we have to know that there is those who serve God and there is a servant of God. What's the difference? Are you a noun or a verb? Are you a servant of God or do you serve God? You ask someone, what do you do for a living? What is your occupation? They'll say, I'm a surgeon. Wow, you're a surgeon. You do surgeries. How, when was your last surgery that you have actually performed? Oh, I'm retired for 25 years already. I haven't actually done a surgery in many, many years, but I am a surgeon, right? A noun. This is who I am. It's not what I do, but this is who I am. So do we define ourselves based on who we are or what we do? The Tanya says this is the difference between a tzaddik and a beinoni. A tzaddik is a noun, a servant of God. In other words, not that he hasn't served God for 25 years, but he hasn't pushed himself. He hasn't left his comfort zone. He hasn't left his box for so many years. Why? For a good reason. Because he has already reached a point in his service of God where it comes naturally. This is who he is. It became his nature. naturally, like we said, he has transformed his inner self. His emotions are aligned with his thoughts, speech, and actions. And this is what he enjoys. Because of his intense love to God, he has no desire for sin. He has no desire for any selfish pleasures. It's only God. That's the tzaddik. And perhaps not so relatable to the average human being. But the point is, he is a noun. A Eved Hashem, someone who is a servant of God. But let's focus on the Beinoni. The Beinoni is a Oyved Elikim, currently serving God, because it takes effort. So the Beinoni is currently doing surgeries, right? Currently involved in his service of God. But here's where the Tanya develops this idea of serving God and not serving God. Because even within the Beinoni, he derives from the verse that there may be a Beinoni who isn't serving God. A effortless Beinoni. If you remember the earlier classes that we gave on Tanya, we focused a lot on motivation. What motivates? What's the drive behind what we do? And the Tanya takes that very seriously. Because where is a person at? Is a lot of it is not only what we do, it's also what is our drive? What is our motivation? Why we do this? So the Tanya talks about a person who is a religious person doing what's right, a Beinoni, which is an amazing level achievement. Thought, speech, and action is in sync with what God wants of him, but they're not necessarily serving God. They don't necessarily have a relationship with God. Why? Because it comes naturally to him or her. For example, someone says, let's take Torah study for an example. So, for some people, they enjoy studying. They enjoy stimulating their minds. They enjoy researching, to study, to learn. So much so that it takes precedence over anything else. If you tell them, let's go have a great time together, have dinner together, let's go to a movie, let's go on vacation, let's relax, let's just enjoy ourselves. They'll say, you know what? You know what's an enjoyment for me? To sit in a library and read about ideas. This is my enjoyment. I enjoy this. It comes naturally to me. So, because let's say I'm a Jew and I want to, study Torah, this is what I enjoy. I enjoy opening a chumash and studying the weekly parsha more than I enjoy a good piece of steak or ice cream or any other physical pleasures. It's not a struggle. It comes naturally to me. Some people are more naturally, they are cold. They have a colder temperament. They don't have such a passion and excitement for physical pleasures. And therefore, they're not involved in material pursuits. They say that Aristotle said that he had no drive for food, for physical. Eat whatever you serve him, some bread, some butter. It's enough just to get me going, just to give me enough energy to continue thinking. Right? They don't have that fire within them for physical pleasures, that passion. And therefore, they have no desire for sin. This type of person may also be a Beinoni. Some people are OCD naturally, right? And because of that, they're very particular in what they do. So when it comes to a mitzvah, they're going to make sure that that everything is perfect. But where does it come from? From their nature. They're naturally like this. So the Tanya says there could be a person who is religious, doing all what they have to do. fully observant, and it comes naturally to them. And therefore, could they take the credits? They are a perfect Beinoni without effort. Do they have a relationship with God? That's the question. And you may be thinking, well, this is not me. I am passionate. I do have desires for sin, for physical pleasures. It is an inner struggle for me to decide to do what's right, to be selfless and not selfish, right? It's not who I am. But the Tanya says that perhaps each and every one of us could apply this in our life as well, in our Jewish life. We all have our comfort box, our comfort zone. And this is what I do. This is what I'm comfortable doing. I've been doing this for a while. This is how I see myself. And very often we become complacent with just, it becomes like if we say second nature. Second nature. And this is, by the way, the challenge that people who are observant in Judaism for a long time, especially if they were born into it, it's a big problem in the Jewish religious observant community, because we want to educate our children that it should come natural to them. Keeping kosher should be natural. Keeping Shabbos should be natural. Going to synagogue and praying and natural. Holidays, Jewish holidays come natural to them. It almost becomes their culture, right? So Judaism becomes who they are as they're culturally Jewish, even if they're very strictly, as we say, ultra Orthodox, perhaps. But it's all because of this is who they are. This is the way they grew up. So it becomes natural to them. Why do you keep Shabbos? Is it because you understand the beauty of Shabbos? Is it because you have this deep relationship with God and you understand that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, and so too we should rest on the seventh to have time to connect with God? I rest on the Shabbos because this is life. I grew up doing this. And it's whatever. I enjoy it. It's nice, right? I haven't even taken 2 seconds to think about it. Why do you pray every day? Whatever. I grew up praying every day. So naturally, I wake up in the morning, I put on my tefillin, I pray, right? I light Shabbat candles because this is what I grew up with. I light Shabbat. I don't think about it. It's natural to me. The same way I put on my pants in the morning. In the morning I pray in the morning, and I eat only kosher because this is just the way I grew up, right? So it becomes natural. And we all have that when we start doing something, and perhaps at the beginning, when we begin doing it, we're very passionate about it, very excited about it, really relate to it and connect it. But then we do it for a day, for a month, for 2 months, for 5 years, and eventually this is just my habit, which on the one hand is great. We'd love for our habits to be in line with God, with Judaism. It's amazing, right? We want this to become our habits. But we also, what happens when it remains our habits? Now we're not growing. We're not leaving our comfort zone. We're not pushing ourselves. And that's a problem. That's what the Tanya says. That's a problem. Are we serving God? Are we actively working on growing spiritually? This happens, by the way, very often. You come to a synagogue and someone's new to Judaism or new to this way of life. And at the beginning, they say, wow, what an amazing life. What an amazing religion. I never knew I had such a wealthy, rich religion. I went to Hebrew school, and I always thought that the Hebrew school was all about my bar and bat mitzvah. And once we had that, I was out for lunch. I was done, right? And now I realize so much meaning and wealth behind everything that we do. It's just beautiful. And we get a little more involved. But sometimes we look around the room to people who have been there for many years, or perhaps all their life, and there's a distinction in the passion between someone who's new at it. Wow, this is amazing. Wow, Passover, Seder. I mean, nothing greater than that. You're thinking about what happened to our ancestors in Egypt. We're eating the matzah. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is amazing. But someone who's done this all their life, they're thinking, what time is it? Are we done yet? I mean, eat the matzah again. Are you serious? I mean, right? We're just doing it because we have to do it, because this is what we do, right? So in actuality, two people may be doing the same exact thing. They may be doing the same exact thing. But how many brownie points do they get? Take two people going to the restaurants. Two people going to a restaurant. And they're ordering the same menu. They order a kosher meal. They're on a plane. They're flying. They're on a vacation. They're in a hotel somewhere, right? And there's many, many options. Many options. Many great restaurants with great food. Great chefs. And they both order kosher. It's great. They're eating kosher. But there may be a very strong difference between the two people. One person has been keeping kosher for 20 years, perhaps all their life. Natural to them. It doesn't even dawn on them to order non-kosher. Non-kosher, it's not even something I'm thinking about. Of course not. This is I'm kosher, right? I only eat kosher. So naturally, I'm ordering a kosher meal. I'm not even looking at the menu. I'm not even thinking about it. The other person, no. For them, kosher is a big deal. It doesn't come easy. In fact, when they went on this vacation, they were thinking, they were dreaming. At night, they woke up in the middle of the night, they were thinking, they were smelling the aroma of the other restaurants. Oh, I can't wait to dig into that piece of meat from this non-kosher restaurant. That's what they were thinking about. And this is what their life is all about. And then they came onto the island in the Bahamas, and they decided, you know what? Today, I'm going to do something for God. I'm going to go out of my way. I'm going to break myself a little bit. I'm going to push the envelope. It's not usually what I do. I was actually very excited about this other restaurant. You know what? I'm going to change the reservation to the kosher restaurant in order to eat kosher. So two people are sitting in the same restaurant ordering the same menu. One of them, in this context of the Tanya, is not serving God because it becomes natural to them. They're not growing. It becomes effortless. It's habits. The other person had to push themselves. They were so undecisive about this. And finally, they were able to muster their courage and say, no, I'm going to go to this kosher place. What they're going to do tomorrow, we don't know. But we know that at this moment, he decided to eat kosher. This is just one example. And each and every one of us, we could kind of translate this to in areas in our life where we say, this area has become natural to me. I've been doing it for so long already. It's already second nature. But other areas in life, I feel like I could push myself. It's not so natural to me. I could grow. So when we serve God, like we said, we could be religious without a relationship with God. When we serve God, what that means is that we are growing. We don't fall back on habits. We don't become complacent. We are growing. We are pushing ourselves. And it's a lifelong journey, because I could grow today, but then once that becomes natural to me, I feel like this is easy. It comes second nature. Now I got to push the envelope a little again, right? I always have to continue growing and climbing, and that's the relation. That's called the relationship with God. Now, in this context, because of course you do a mitzvah even without any heart, without any push. It's a relationship with God. But in this context, we're talking about a Beinoni that is serving God or a Beinoni that's not serving God. It's the difference between a Beinoni that does things that because it comes natural to them, whether they're born with a certain nature that they enjoy doing these things, or they don't have that inner struggle, or in areas in life where it became a second nature because we were raised this way, or we've been doing this for so many years, and now it's just natural to me, which is great. But let's not forget that to serve God as a verb, serving God means that we are growing. We have to change our natural habits. That's having a relationship with God. And the Tanya gives us a very interesting analogy. This is from the Talmud. The Talmud says that back in the day, when they would study Torah, how many times would they study each passage? You know, today we have books. It's available. You go online, it's available. So we don't really use our memory that much. You know, we're talking about phone books, right? It used to be that every person memorize at least 10, 20, 30 phone numbers, right? You got to know your parents and your children, your spouses, and your doctor, and hey, you got to know some phone numbers, right? You got to know what to dial. Today, people don't even know their own phone number. My phone number, I don't know. I'll send it to you, right? I'll forward you a contact. It's all on my phone, right? So we don't memorize anything. And the same is true with study. Today we have access to the World Wide Web. We have libraries. We have books, a dime a dozen, and therefore we don't really memorize anything. Now, back in the day, people didn't have books, right? If you wanted to study, you have to you got a hold of some type of literature, some type of printout, some type of so you have to study it in a way where you're going to retain the information. So you have to study it many times. So the Talmud says it was common practice to study something in Judaism, in Torah, 100 times. You know, once and again, 100 times. That was common practice. So the Talmud says, if someone studied the Torah 100 times, they haven't served God yet. That's common practice. You know what it takes to serve God? Not 200 times. If you do it 101 times, that extra one time that you study, oh, that's serving God. And they give an analogy of a taxi driver. Well, they use a donkey driver, but same thing as a taxi driver, right? So you hire a donkey, you hire a taxi, and the taxi says, listen, I have a route. My route is from point A to point B, 10 miles. And for a 10-mile drive, it's one zuz, $1. $1 for 10 miles. That's what the Talmud says. So you tell the taxi driver, I actually have to go 11 miles. It's 1 mile out of your route. If it's one zuz for 10 miles, how much would it be for additional mile? You may think, what is it? Be $1.10, $1.20? I mean, how? So the taxi driver says the extra mile is a full zuz. It's 2 zuz in total. 1 zuz for 10 mile, 2 zuz for 11. Really? 1 extra mile? Are you charging me double? He says, yeah, because that 1 extra mile is out of the ordinary. It's out of our routine. So now we're going to charge you double. That's what the Talmud says. That extra time that you study Torah, that little push that you give, which is not part of the routine, that has the same value, if not more, than all the times that you do routine. So the value, the Talmud says, the relationship with God goes into growth. It's the motivation. If it's effortless, it's worth something, but not that much. The value is really the effort that we put into it. That's what God is looking for. It's how much did it take of the person? That's what we're looking for. I once read a story. I don't remember the name of the person who was in this like musical competition, and they came on stage. They did this beautiful rendition, and a violinist, and they asked him later, like, how did you do it? He says, you know what? Before show, before performance, I'm sitting there in the back and I'm practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. And then eventually I feel like, how many times can I do the same thing, right? I practice well enough. I'm perfect at it. So the moment that thought comes to mind, you know what I do? I practice one more time. I always do it one more time. Then I feel like, once I feel like I'm ready, I do it one additional time. Because then I feel like, oh, now I push myself. Now, that's where the relationship with God comes from. So going back to the original stories that we started off with, that Tzemach Tzedek wasn't there to make life difficult for us. That Tzemach Tzedek wanted us to serve God, to have this relationship with God, which comes when we have growth, when we're kind of pushing ourselves. It doesn't come naturally, and we're able to leave our box. So if we're asking a blessing that everything should come easy, which is nice. We all want things to come easy. But when it's not easy, there's so much more value. I want to study Torah. I want to have a naturally enjoyment in studying Torah. The Tzemach Tzedek says, you know what? I have that, and I'm suffering because I don't have that value of pushing ourselves to have this relationship with God. There was a Jew in California who did not consider himself a chassid, of the Rebbe, and he once has he was talking to the Rebbe once, and he says something like, I'm not your chassid, I'm not part of this Chabad movement. I'm not your chassid. So the Rebbe got very serious, and the Rebbe said that any person who wakes up in the morning and says, today I'm going to do something a little bit out of the box. Today is going to be better than yesterday. I'm going to grow today more than I did yesterday. I'm not going to be complacent. I'm not going to fall back on habits. Anyone who says this is my chassid. That's what it takes to be a chassid. All it takes is grow. Don't stay on neutral. You go downhill. Grow. That's what a servant of God is. It's not about how religious you are. Judaism is not about religiosity. It's about relationship with God, spiritual growth. That's what it means to be alive. To be alive means there's growth, there's passion, there's excitement, there's motivation. When things comes naturally, it's dry, it's cold, and that's not where God finds himself. God finds himself in warmth, in passion, enthusiasm, excitement. That's when we have that motivation. Not always easy, but it's the effort. E for effort. That's what God wants. Not for excellence, for effort. That's what counts. And that's the message of chapter 15 of the Tanya. I think it's a very relatable and very powerful message. We could all take this into our lives. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for joining us for chapter 15. And we look forward to next week. We continue with chapter 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was wonderful. Very helpful.
Thank you.